Hello everyone, this is Joseph Ryan Banks and welcome back to the channel. The US and UK are targeting residential Yemeni neighborhoods in the Shaoub district north of Sana'a, as well as Sada and Al-Baida with airstrikes and bombings. Al Mayadeen, a Lebanese pan-Arab satellite news outlet, has reported at least 50 civilians, including women and children, who have been martyred and or injured in the attacks by the West. The US's regime, President Donald Trump, announced launching military strikes against Yemen's Ansar Allah on Saturday over the group's actions in the Red Sea, warned, quote, "Hell will rain down upon you," if they did not stop blocking Israeli and occupation-affiliated vessels and U.S. warships active in the region. The New York Times, famous Corpo State Empire news outlet of the U.S., cited two U.S. officials stating that Washington is planning to launch airstrikes on several targets in Yemen. While the U.S. has claimed that their targets are alleged radars and air defenses and missile and drone systems, correspondents on the ground reported that several airstrikes by the U.S.-UK coalition targeted residential areas and neighborhoods. They are bombing normal people, civilians, resulting in their deaths. These airstrikes came swiftly in retaliation to Yemen's decision to resume their naval blockade on all Israeli occupation ships in the Red Sea, Arabian Sea, the Bab al-Mandab Strait, and the Gulf of Aden. This came after the failure by mediators to pressure the Israeli occupation to reopen Gaza's border crossing to allow humanitarian aid into the besieged Gaza, where the occupation is conducting a systematic Holocaust on the Palestinian people. In a statement issued by the Yemeni armed forces, they declared the immediate enforcement of the blockade, warning that any Israeli vessel attempting to breach the restriction would be targeted within designated operation areas. These actions reaffirm Yemen's solidarity with the people of Gaza, with the Palestinian people, and it is because of this material action to hinder the occupation's ability to carry on with its own ban on aid into Gaza that the US and UK are conducting this bombing campaign in Yemen. These bombing campaigns are aimed at furthering and protecting the US's geopolitical goals. What the US and UK are doing is a clear violation of international law, retaliating against and targeting Yemen's sovereignty and stability. But we should all be well aware of by now how little international law really means in this day and age. Surely those of you who are paying attention should see the limp authority that international law has over the empire of the United States. Israel is basically a landed aircraft carrier for the US. Since taking office earlier this year, Donald Trump has approved nearly $12 billion in major FMS sales, or foreign military sales, to Israel, continuing to fund the United States' forward military base and colony in West Asia, just like President Biden before him. This all comes roughly around the same time that the occupation has violated its ceasefire, quote-unquote, though I doubt the fire has ever ceased on Israel's part. The occupation proceeded to drop hundreds of bombs on the defenseless civilians of Gaza, making their genocidal intent even more explicit. The occupation's most recent wave of airstrikes have reportedly killed nearly 600 Palestinians in just a couple days, with at least 200 of those being children. Israel's occupation Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that this was, quote, only the beginning, unquote. Netanyahu has stated that Israeli forces would strike Hamas with, quote, increasing force, unquote, and future ceasefire negotiations would, quote, only take place under fire, unquote. Now, what does this mean? Well, it means the Israeli occupation is going to continue its Holocaust of the Palestinians, targeting primarily children, as they have done for the last 80 years, with the ultimate goal of eradicating the population of Gaza and the West Bank so that the last Palestinian will not draw breath. It reported 90% of all schools in Gaza are destroyed, along with most of the infrastructure left in the Strip. Their aim is to depopulate the region and settle there. It's been estimated that it would take at least 20 years to reconstruct Gaza, according to UN estimates, and those are just conservative ones, as well as a cost of over $50 billion to rebuild the region to a habitable level. It should be clear to absolutely everyone at this point that the occupation is carrying out a campaign of extermination, of genocide against the Palestinians, and that Israel is not a legitimate authority in the region under international law. Israel has also struck the only hospital delivering cancer care to Gaza. The Turkish Friendship Hospital for cancer patients in central Gaza was already severely damaged by Israeli airstrikes in October of 2023. The UNRWA told reporters in Geneva that they only had 6 days worth of flour left to distribute in Gaza. Quote, 6 of 25 bakeries that the World Food Program was supporting had to close down. There are larger crowds on streets outside bakeries, unquote. Israel has routinely blocked aid and entry of goods into the besieged Gaza in an attempt to starve Palestinians to death. This starvation strategy comes in tandem with the continuous bombing campaigns that have dropped more bombs on the Strip than the U.S. dropped on Japan during World War II. At least 2.1 million people, over 96% of Gaza's population, is facing high levels of food insecurity. This means that 1 in 5 Palestinians, or 495,000 people, are facing acute starvation, according to the Integrated Food Security Phase classification. This was reported only a year after the initial October 7 escalation of the Palestinian genocide. We are far from these figures, far worse in material reality. Israel's military says a ground invasion of southern Gaza's Rafah is underway, and troops are pushing into the north near the town of Beit Lahia and other central areas. The crimes against humanity, the genocide being carried out by the occupational forces, have not stalled. They have only continued with the unrelenting support of the Western imperialist powers. This reflects a continuation of the West's aims to maintain an iron grip on the region, to secure oil, and a secondary front against the axis of resistance composed of Russia, Iran, Lebanon, Yemen, and formerly the Assad government of Syria, which is now being plundered by foreign capital interests. And with that, I will conclude today's coverage of the current events. This will be going up on my Substack, where you can subscribe for essays and videos there. My name is Joseph Ryan Banks. Please consider leaving a like and a comment and sharing this video on your social media. Please consider supporting me on Ko-fi, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.